Have you ever been to South Africa? Have you ever been to Cape Town? Well, I'm going to tell you a story today about how I ended up in Cape Town, how I ended up down here in one of the most spectacular places to live in the world. A lot of people see it as just a tourist destination, but let me tell you something. It's one of the most spectacular places in the world to live. And I'm going to talk about that today. I'm just going to tell you a little bit of a story about how I ended up here. I came to South Africa as a young child. I was born in the UK. We lived in Gauteng, in the middle of the country, and in fact I lived in the capital city, Pretoria. By the way, the capital city of South Africa is not Johannesburg, it's not Cape Town, it's Pretoria, and it always has been Pretoria. And back in those years, Pretoria was most likely one of the most beautiful cities in the country. Well kept, well looked after, and well structured. For one thing, you couldn't get lost in the city because the city's streets are actually built in beautiful little blocks. So there's no confusing road ending here or road heading off into the mountain or whatever the case. If you go down one road, you're going to cross another road. It was so easy to navigate the town, and the town was always so well kept and so nice to live in. The weather was reasonable, really hot in the summers, and it rained in the summers, subtropical, and effectively the winters were pretty dry. Dry winters, all cool and whatnot. But over the years, it deteriorated. And over the last 30 years particularly, it deteriorated to a point where you just couldn't live there anymore. It was... I got robbed in Pretoria probably 5 or 6 times, I think 5 times. They tried to hijack my car on no less than 3 times, and I avoided it by just hook or crook. I always carried a gun with me. I was always well aware of what was going on. And that was in the last 10 years that I sort of stayed there. And I found that when I slept at night, I could hear a pin drop. And I had a fortress around my house. I had beams in case somebody crawled around the yard. I had fences around the house, high walls, alarms inside the house, alarms outside the house, just to ensure nobody got into the property. And I was living in a good suburban area. I actually had imagination thoughts of lying on the roof like a sniper waiting for the criminals to come so I could take them out one by one. Never did that, never got there, but these thoughts go through your mind. You can't believe, you just want to protect yourself and your family. And I learned to lock myself away in the room so that nobody could get to me while I was sleeping, because that's what they would do. They'd break into your house while you're sleeping and drag you out of bed with a gun. Never happened to me. I was very fortunate that even when they did break into my house, they couldn't get to me because I avoided that. Also, I had all my alarms on. The alarms were set off, and that was what stopped me from basically getting killed, murdered, shot in my sleep. And I was robbed. They did take a few things, and they did get the stuff out of there. Now, having small children at the time, and this was more than 10 years ago, around 10 years ago, I decided enough's enough. I've got to go somewhere else. I've sold the business. I've moved on, and I'm not really tied down to anyone's city. So should we go overseas or should we move somewhere else? And really what it was my daughter said, well, I want to move to Cape Town. And I was like, Cape Town, and what I'd heard about Cape Town was horrific. I used to sit and watch the news, and when I was watching the weather, I would see all these teeth coming towards Cape Town and all these cyclones and all this weather, and I would think, oh, those poor buggers down there, they must be suffering immensely. And in the winter, they would show all these terrible temperatures, and everyone's cold and it's wet and it's dreary. And then everyone would talk about the immense wind in Cape Town, how bad the wind is. The wind is horrific. You can't live there. The wind's always blowing you around. At that time, I'd visited Cape Town once. And the one time that I had visited Cape Town many years before was when Pretoria was so beautiful. And Cape Town to me was more like a village, man. And also while I was here, the wind was quite tricky, and I had long hair as a youngster, and it was all sticky from the, sea salt and the sand. And I was like, when you see the place as a holiday destination, you don't see the niceness behind it. So when that was suggested to me, I looked at it as, no, guys, I don't really want to move to Cape Town. It doesn't sound great. But you know what? I'm always open to anything. Let's go and have a look. So I jumped on an airplane, flew down to Cape Town with the wife and we came to have a look. We drove into the West Coast area and I fell in love with it immediately. I was like, this is absolutely amazing. Beautiful place. First thing I found was everything's working. No potholes in the streets. Traffic lights are on. And I don't feel threatened. And the houses are not surrounded by electric fences and gates and beams and alarms and whatnot. And people are walking in the streets. And then you go to the shops and you feel safe. And people are talking to you and people are friendly and nothing that I expected. I expected people to be cliquey and not want to have you around. But everyone was super friendly. Everything was super nice. And I thought, well, that's absolutely amazing, because what people have told me, it's the murder capital of South Africa, it's the worst place to be, you're going to die there, and the weather and all the rest of it. Now, after living here for a number of years, 10 years or so, I realized that what it's all about is the crime and the murder and the shootings and all that are all in the dodgy areas. And I think anywhere you live in the world, if you live in a dodgy area, sure, you're gonna leave yourself open to being shot or robbed or mugged or whatever the case. And I know a few friends that had been mugged in Cape Town, but when I say mugged, they were mugged and they stole their cell phone or whatever. They didn't shoot them, but in Pretoria, I had friends who were shot in their bed. I had friends who were shot in the street. It's absolutely ridiculous. When it comes down to that, I brushed the crime thing aside and I started living my life in Cape Town, and I've never enjoyed my life as much. Everyone friendly, everything nice, and the weather, let's say it's windy. It gets windy for maybe 20% of the year, and I live on the windiest side of the town, the West Coast. This is the windy city. People use the sea here for windsurfing, dudes. It's like a windsurfing town. The wind only bothers me about 10 or 20% of the year, if that. And when it's windy, what I do, I stay inside and watch a bit of TV, do something on the computer, make a video like this or whatever the case. I just don't go out, or I go to a restaurant or whatever. When I lived up north, all I would do was effectively sit inside because I was scared. Well, not scared, but I was wary of walking around in the streets for just in case you got mugged or shot or something equally ridiculous. There was nowhere to go. And if I went out, I would get out, get in the car, go directly to where I'm going, go to a restaurant, sit in the restaurant, get in the car, go home, go back inside, lock up, put all the alarms on, and hide behind the alarms. So with that said, in Cape Town, that doesn't happen. If I feel like going somewhere, I'll get in the car and go somewhere, but I'll also walk somewhere, or I can park the car somewhere and just go for a walk and enjoy it. If I want to go to a restaurant, I can just go and relax and enjoy myself, come back, and guess what? The houses are not all full of alarms. I know how many people I've bumped into, and I asked them, how does your alarm work? And they don't even know the code to the alarm. They don't even know how to switch it on. They don't even know how to put it on or off. The fences, there are some high walls, there are some people with electric fences, but I put that down to the people that have come from Joburg, Pretoria, and Durban, because they've still got the fear inside of them. Because when I first arrived here, I was thinking along the same lines, and a couple of people said to me, Rob, you don't need to do that. Relax, dude. You can relax. It's not going to happen. I didn't put the security. I do have an alarm in the house, but I hardly ever use it, and I don't have high walls, and it's really not a problem. I don't have any hassles here. All my neighbors have open yards. There's only one neighbor that switches an alarm every night, and he sets it off every morning. Wonderful, eh? Because I don't know if he doesn't know how to work it, or if he gets up and he walks into it, or what the hell. Every morning sets his alarm off, and then ADT comes out and they stand there and they go and check him out, and some fat guy with a ladder trying to get over the wall. There are security companies running around, there are people running around. The biggest problem I think we have in Cape Town at the moment is what we call the boomelas, the guys that are out of work, that are living on the streets, living in tents, taking drugs. You know, it's a massive problem in Cape Town. It's one of the worst issues that we've got. That's the story, guys. I just thought I'd let you in on that story, and it's a bit of fun, and just to let you know that, hey, if you ever feel like moving to Cape Town, do yourself a favor. Come and have a look at it. Come and feel it for yourself. Spend a couple of weeks. You won't be sorry. Come when it's not the windy times, and come and just look at it as a place you would live. Don't look at it as a holiday. I don't swim in the sea. I don't go and party down in the sea or anything like that. I live here, and that's what makes the difference. If you live here, it's a beautiful place to live. Thanks for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope my story didn't bore you too much. Until the next one, guys. Next week. Thanks, cheers, and bye.